Obscured Sightlines is a project born from my growing concerns surrounding the impacts and sustainability of Ottawa's accelerating urban sprawl. Throughout my master's work, I repeatedly reflected on the question of how can I employ photography to shape memory, identity, and place. And my intent is to meaningfully bear witness to landscapes on the cusp of erasure as a means of preserving traces of what will soon be lost. Canada's capital of Ottawa is being transformed by the unprecedented pace of residential developments. Entire fields, forests, and wetlands on the city's outer edges are being cleared for subdivisions and supporting infrastructure. One concern I have is that this transformation is so rapid that ecological and cultural memory might struggle to keep up, making the sprawl not just an ecological concern, but also a social and moral one. As a parent, I understand the need for cities to grow. Families need homes, schools, and infrastructure, but as a photographer and citizen, I'm becoming deeply unsettled by the landscapes we see erased in the process. This project stems from that personal dissonance. It reflects an acceptance of expansion, but also a grief for what vanishes as Ottawa grows outward at unsustainable rates. Each of these spaces explored is one identified by Ottawa's Schedule C-17, an official plan identifying the urban expansion areas targeted for repurposing in the next few years. In repurposing these regions, we lose spaces of representation, connection, and unique experiential understandings. These edge lands lost in the wake of expansion are where I focus my lens. A landscape is far more than the lands in the frame. There is endless ecological knowledge tied to these spaces, forfeited with each new development. These are lived spaces of memory, belonging, meaning, and identity. When transformed into subdivisions, we lose layered experiences and cultural connections. This project seeks to preserve a trace of the memory we sacrifice. This work is not about presenting some solution. It acts to present viewers with a last glimpse, a visual record of these spaces as they were, asking them to hold both perspectives in mind. I want viewers to pause at these contested spaces, to consider what is gained, what is lost, and how sustainable practices might shape the futures of our landscapes. Sontag reminds us that photography is not neutral, and as photographers we assign value with regards to what's in the frame and what's beyond it. This project considers that and explores it through three distinct perspectives: the economic, political, and ecological. The economic will employ the drone aerial seen here, showing the systemic geometries of expansion. The political forces will be reflected at the ground level, showing what's sacrificed through the views presented to the very people physically reshaping the grounds. And the ecological forces are revealed through the macro studies of the flora, soil, and fragile details. The sequencing of imagery in this project will have an intentional rhythm, from drone to ground to macro. This rhythm will pull viewers from systemic scales into tactile intimacy, reinforcing that the urban expansion isn't just a result of large-scale sweeping policy, but a dynamic confluence of processes affecting ecosystems and communities. These shifts in vantage point will allow the viewers to fill the spaces in between with personal and meaningful connections. We are further reminded by Kendall Walton that photographs fail to capture the experience of environments, that they frame fragments of a much richer, nuanced, and lived reality, one deeper than any photo could ever recreate. However, the risk is that of Sontag's paradox of photographs, the question of if they can provoke conscience without numbing it. This paradox underpins Obscured Sightlines, which aims to inspire reflection and acknowledge the loss without sensationalizing it. I focus my lens around her suggestion that all photos are memento mori, reminders of mortality and change. In so doing, each image in Obscured Sightlines acknowledges the mortality, vulnerability, and mutability of Canada's national symbols and ecological heritage. I feel this reframes the images of edgelands more as visual elegies, testaments to ecological and cultural heritage disappearing in real time. Much of my approach seen in the aerial images shown here have been heavily influenced by Robert Adams. His subtle critique of human settlement resisted sensationalism in presenting these edgelands of humanity's transitional zones. His quiet, light, and simple framing enabled his work to make bold and layered statements while still retaining a mesmerizing simplicity. It's a methodology which informs my own restraint in capturing Ottawa's transitional landscapes. Closer to home, I've leaned on Canadian artists such as Jeff Wall and Roy Arden, who have shown how urban sprawl reshaped such transitional areas. Isabelle Hoyer and Peter Sebald, who are also Canadian, have featured works similar in nature which critique suburban uniformity and farmland loss. I've looked to them not only for their methods, but to inform my own philosophies and methodology. However, it's important to note that while my work is very much Canadian, the issue of urban sprawl is a global one. Edward Bertinsky, through aerial photography, has effectively situated these issues globally, linking unchecked growth and resource consumption to global ecological crises. This led to my exploration of the issue beyond Canadian borders, in studying photographers such as Paul Graham, John Davies, and Simon Roberts. The work will certainly not end with the imagery. I'm already looking towards how and where it's going to be consumed to optimally engage my targeted audiences. This means I'm not only considering galleries and prints, but everyday spaces such as classrooms, campuses, and in our community. With that in mind, interim dissemination and engagement, as well as culmination, will employ different mediums and platforms. Currently, my dissemination for the project features a publicly visible Instagram account documenting the project in progress as an invite to dialogue. I plan to develop eco-friendly zines to be distributed through Algonquin College, the University of Ottawa, and Carleton University, designed to spark conversations among younger audiences and eco-minded communities. Beyond academic audiences, these zines will also be presented to Ottawa's housing and planning committees. By reframing the sprawl as an ecological and cultural question, the work seeks to encourage political discourse. Further, I've reached out to organizations such as Ecology Ottawa to develop a relationship and explore potential project directions or support that they might be able to extend me. This project aims to culminate in a photo book and an exhibition submission to the National Gallery of Canada, coinciding with Earth Day of 2027. The delayed submission deadline reflects both my desire for seasonal representation and a consideration for the consumption. I'm considering what these landscapes will look like by such a date. I feel like this will underscore to the viewer that this silent change has already happened, and that while the landscapes in the frame will remain forever touched, their impact can affect future meaningful change. Obscured Sightlines is not intended to be an argument for or against the urban sprawl. It aims to be a record, a reflection, and a caution, urging viewers to consider the true cost of expansion. The intent for Impact and Legacy is to inspire a shift in dialogue where we ask, what will we leave behind? In framing the series in such a manner, each image becomes both memory and a warning. It hopes to become somewhat of a caution for both current and future generations, insisting that we take responsibility for our planet and our identity. If to collect photographs is to collect a world, then this project aims to collect the world we're losing. It seeks not to numb, but rather to awaken and call to action, to see, to grasp, and to change before it's too late. Thank you.